It is World Elder Abuse Day today, an issue that's been one of the more disturbing storylines to emerge from this COVID-19 pandemic. A seniors advocacy group, CanAge, stating they've seen a tenfold increase in reports of elder abuse since the crisis began. To talk about this terrible issue, we're joined by lawyer, author, blogger, podcaster, and speaker Jasmine Daya. Hi, Jasmine.
Hi.
Hey,
thanks for having me.
Well, thanks so much for joining us once again. You know, can you first just start off by defining elder abuse for us? What exactly does that mean?
Elder abuse can take various forms. When we think of abuse, oftentimes the first thing that comes to mind is the physical aspect. And while that is certainly a type of abuse that can be inflicted on an elder, there are various other forms that people generally don't think about. For example, the psychological abuse that can occur, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, and even just basically neglect.
Who commits elder abuse? Give us an idea of who. I'm assuming it's a family member?
That's a very good question because there's a lot of assumptions when we talk about elder abuse by individuals, and it's not always accurate. Yes, there are definitely times when family members commit abuse, as atrocious as that sounds. Oftentimes, from that perspective, it can be financial. So financial abuse is where a person that's in a position of power, authority, trust, takes advantage of the other individual. With respect to an elder, it could be that they are scamming them out of their own money. But it's not just family members. So individuals at long-term care home facilities, for example, are in these facilities because they require care. And at those facilities, they have access to 24-hour care. So it could be people at those facilities, such as personal support workers, nurses, but it's not limited to facility-based care either. It could be individuals in the public, within the community that take advantages of individuals. And in fact, there's various statistics that show in Alberta that over a third of seniors have been a victim of financial abuse.
Wow. That's terrible. Okay, so, obviously it is World Elder Abuse Day today, which sadly means it's enough of a problem that we've had to create a day for it to try and bring awareness to this problem. So do you have sort of stats for us? I mean, that's horrible that we're seeing that here in Alberta. Do you have any other sort of numbers that you can explain to us what we're seeing and even right across the country?
Yeah, absolutely. So the month of June is actually a seniors month. Mm-hmm. So it is the whole month where we recognize our seniors. And this day in particular, as you pointed out, is World Elder Abuse Day, which is a day, it's the only day in the whole year when the whole world voices its opposition to the abuse and suffering inflicted to some of our older generations. In terms of statistics, the pandemic has produced various statistics. And while I don't believe that the pandemic has created abuse within the elder community, it has definitely exposed something that is happening, mm-hmm. and it's something that people are talking about. We've seen that in Canada, approximately 80% of deaths are linked somehow to long-term care homes. And again, I'm not saying that because an individual is in a long-term care home, there's automatic liability on that home that has resulted in the death. But, it's something to talk about. It's something we need to look at. There's been outbreaks at about 300 homes in Ontario, 270 homes in Quebec. These are staggering numbers. And in Ontario, the Canadian Armed Forces were brought in to assist with the long-term care facilities. They produced a scathing report about the observations at these homes. And while this was in Ontario, there's long-term care homes all over Canada. And we need to be looking at, okay, can this really just be limited to Ontario? Or is this something that is happening straight across the country? And we're not even acknowledging it. Mm-hmm. It's time to acknowledge it.
I agree.
You mentioned acknowledging it, and I'm wondering, because maybe the seniors in our lives might be embarrassed if they've gone through something like this, maybe afraid, maybe they're suffering from dementia or just have troubles communicating. So what are the warning signs we can look for in the seniors in our lives that maybe they've been, suffering from abuse?
You've nailed it correctly in stating that a lot of individuals, they're embarrassed. There's also fear of retaliation. So if you speak out against your caregiver, for example, there's fear that, well, is that caregiver going to be able to care for me? Sometimes they can't speak. Sometimes they don't know who to go to for help. So the signs that you look for with our elders, because as you correctly pointed out, sometimes they can't speak for themselves or speak out, you want to look for changes in behavior such as depression or anxiety, if they are fearful around certain people, if they become socially withdrawn. There's also obviously unexplained physical injuries. When we're looking at neglect, you want to look at food, clothing, and other necessities, loss of weight, change in hygiene, the sudden inability to meet financial obligations, or if you see very unusual financial withdrawals from accounts.
Jasmine, you're a lawyer, so talk to us a little bit about what can be done if we think there is something going on. Is there something from a legal standpoint we can do as family members or somebody who's seeing this and just isn't really quite sure what steps to take?
The first thing you want to do is go to the police. Some people feel, do we need to report this to the police? Absolutely. The police will file a report, do some sort of investigation. If you don't speak out, we can't stop it. So you want to go to the police, seek medical assistance for the individual that has been abused, whether it's taking them to a hospital or to their doctor. You want to make sure that from a health perspective, our seniors are taken care of. If they're at a facility, it's important to talk to the people at the facility. Sometimes the people in charge of the facility may not know unless you bring it to their attention. There are also various community groups within each city, within each province in Canada that are there to assist. So contact them also to see what can be done and what supports they have available. There's also the ability to contact a personal injury lawyer that can assist and perhaps obtain compensation for pain and suffering, but leave us to the end. We want to go through all these other steps and make sure that the individual that has suffered from abuse is taken care of.
Is there any national, association or any, place resource-wise that you can go to that would be like a one-stop shop, or is it better to just start searching provincially where you live?
If you do a simple Google search, there will be a whole bunch of websites that will list all the different associations and community services available. And really it's delegated to each province. So definitely Alberta will have their own host of services.
Yeah, just looking it up, and it is, in fact, albertaelderabuse.ca is the website for here in our province. And anyone who's concerned about a loved one here in our community, you can just click there and they'll help you find the closest agency. And as you said, call 911 if you're concerned and there's a serious worry about a senior in your life.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Jasmine. Always appreciate your time. Thanks for letting us know about today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. That is lawyer and advocate Jasmine Daya.
Look for those signs, because I know that particularly when we talk about scams, for example, not just seniors, but people are, hesitant to come forward or, for whatever reason, they don't want to be embarrassed. Or, as Jasmine mentioned, they might be fearful that their caregiver will leave them or they'll ramp up the violence and they don't have that opportunity to escape.
I mean, if we've learned anything through this pandemic, it's, sometimes what terrible situations our seniors can be in. So we need to be better advocates for them all around, I think. And again, albertaelderabuse.ca is a great website here.